So this is our base wall plate for the front wall where the plexiglass is going to sit in on the front of the drum booth. As you can see, I built this out of 3/4 inch poplar for the base, and then here is 1/2 inch poplar that I planed down. And then to get this radius on the front, I glued some blocks. Well, actually I clamped some blocks onto this base plate all along the radius, and then clamped those and screwed them from underneath. Did both sides that way. Actually, I put this little spacer in after I got this front one on. You know, spacer is a little bit thicker than the plexiglass that's going to slide in here for the front wall of the drum booth. And then I just clamped this one to it and screwed both of them from the bottom. Pretty cool. What we have here is the riser part of the drum booth. This drum booth will actually measure 8 feet deep and 10 feet across, this being the front edge. So there'll be a whole nother section over here that mirrors this part, and they'll join together in the center. And the material I've used for the skirt and the floor joist is 3/4 inch forming plywood, or some people call it AC. It's a bit of a challenge because it's sort of warped, as you can see. I would have much rather used birch plywood, but it's very expensive, so just trying to keep the cost down and keep the weight down. And we'll deck this part of the drum riser with the same material. Well, as you can see, I've completed both sides of the riser and decked them both with 3/4 inch plywood. And this is the cleat that I mentioned earlier that will tie both sides together. It's already joined at the other end. Next, I'll be putting my casters on, and then I'll slide these two together, get a good fit, and drill the pilot holes for the screws. Now this drum booth is going to be totally sealed off from the outside with 4 walls and a roof as well with a ceiling. So to keep the drummer comfortable, we've installed an AC line. There'll be a 6-inch collar on the outside here to hook up our supply line to. There's a little 6-inch collar on the inside. I've installed a 6-inch flex duct with a few braces to keep it from falling down. And then it hooks to a 4x12-inch boot that'll come up on the inside floor of the drum booth. Keep the drummer nice and comfy. As you can see, we've begun construction on the back wall of the drum booth, and it is roughly about 6 foot 3 inches from the base plate of the wall to the top where the ceiling will rest on. I've built this out of 3/4 inch poplar. It's about 2 3/4 inches deep, and I've decked the back of it with 1/2 inch plywood, and I'll be dividing this back wall up into sections, kind of create a little pattern to use my foam and my stiff acoustic panels to set in there. And there's our doorway. Anybody that's over 6'2" will have to duck a little bit. Well, I've begun construction on the roof, and as you can see, it mirrors the bottom plate. I made the front edge out of 1/2 inch poplar with a stiff rib in the back to get the radius. Used 5-inch, 3/4 inch plywood for the ceiling joists, and then I'm putting these cross braces in here because I'm going to lay the insulation board from the rear to the front, 2x4 pieces, 2 inches thick, and that will be our actual ceiling and the top of our roof. We'll cut down the weight. As you can see, I've finished the roof, and I've painted everything. And these are Owens Corning 703 rigid fiberglass panels that I've glued burlap around. This is actually the inside finished side that you'll see, and it's going to be underneath. This is kind of looking from underneath inside the drum machine. It's going to be really nice, and getting ready to put some black visqueen on the back here. Nobody will see this, but I just want to make it look a little better. So getting ready to do those. Now that I've painted everything and just sort of dry fitted it, got all my acoustic foam in, all my 703 rigid panels covered with burlap and glued on. Just need a little bit of cleaning up to do when we get it installed. It's going to be really great. This is where I've drilled a little hole, and this is where my mini snake will go. My drop snake for the drum mics. Go right in that little slot. Okay, one of the last things we'll do before we install the drum booth is we'll carpet the outside of this drum riser with some speaker cabinet carpet, they call it. It's really thick, thicker than a blanket or any kind of cloth, but not as thick as carpet. And to glue this down, we'll use 3M Super 77 spray adhesive. It's going to be quite nice on the outside there. Make it nice and plush finished looking. As you can see, we painted everything. We've got all of our panels in the back and side walls. Got our little drink holder there in the center by the door. And we're just about to wrap this thing up. Looking good. Okay, here we have the finished product.